Hello there.
Welcome to this very, very, very special episode of Star Wars in a Galaxy. Why is this episode so special, Jacob? When is this coming out?
I'll give you a lie. This is coming out on my birthday, June 5th. So we are doing a special character appreciation episode. Little break from the prequel grind. And
yes, we
of
are.
Course,
and Jacob,
I had
who did
to
you
choose
pick?
the man, the legend, Obi-Wan Kenobi. None other.
Yep, we're going to be talking about General Kenobi, Obi-Wan himself, Old Ben. And here's how these episodes are going to work. We have a bunch of kind of things that we're going to talk about these characters. We're going to do some history, just a brief historical background. Jacob and I are going to share 5 fun facts that we gathered about whoever the character is. We're then going to share, and then we're going to get more opinionated. We're going to go with best portrayal, who portrayed this character best piece of media, what is the best place this character shined in, best allies, the people who are most helpful to this person, and then the best enemies, the rivalry, and then finally our best 5 moments. And Jacob and I are going to do all of those, and we're going to have a discussion around this character. That's why I chose to call it, and Jacob chose to call it Character Appreciation Day. So,
yeah.
First of all, let's just go over a little bit of history with Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi was a Jedi Master around the time of the fall of the Republic and the Clone Wars and the Empire. He trained 2 Skywalkers, one achievement.
Not one, but 2.
He trained 2 Skywalkers, Anakin and Luke, and he was involved in many battles in the Clone Wars, including the Battle of Christophsis, the Battle of Utapau, the Battle of Coruscant, and he eventually earned his title as the Negotiator, fighting along Anakin Skywalker as the hero with no fear, leading the 212th Attack Battalion, the Clone Wars. He was one of the few Jedi to survive Order 66 and go into hiding where he'd watch over the young Luke Skywalker on Tatooine.
That is a very impressive slate of achievements, I have to say. We're probably gonna
touch on that later
in just a couple minutes.
But yeah, okay, we're gonna do fun facts about Obi-Wan. Hit me with your first fun fact.
My first fun fact. This was one I was researching just this morning, and it actually surprised me. Obi-Wan Kenobi's homeworld of Stujon was revealed by George Lucas in an interview with Jon Stewart as a joke about the host's name. It is canonical that he's from there, but it actually started with George Lucas making that joke when pressed on the issue by Mr. Stewart.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, that was one of mine.
Oh, okay.
So it's fine, but yeah, I was going to mention that one too. Stujon is Obi-Wan's home planet in both canon and Legends. Yeah, it was at, I think, Celebration 5 in, I think it might have been Miami, actually, but I'm not sure. Wouldn't be an In a Galaxy episode without a future Eli. Surprisingly, I wasn't actually too far off. Celebration 5 was held in Orlando. Yeah. So, yeah, that is a good one. Mine, are you ready for this one?
Let's do it.
Obi-Wan mentions the Clone Wars in Episode 4, A New Hope. Before, after the original trilogy, but before the special editions in the prequel trilogy, some fans had a theory that Obi-Wan was actually a nickname for Obi-Wan, and that clones of Obi-Wan were fighting in the Clone Wars.
Whoa, that is a very interesting theory. Obi-Wan. You know, that's interesting because Ewan McGregor's brother flies in some Air Force, I think it's British or Canadian Air Force, and his call sign is OB2.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough.
I found that one on the internet. I'm like, oh, I gotta include it. Hit me with your second one.
All right. Number 2. This isn't one fact, but it's kind of an interesting thing. Obi-Wan was not always super humble and Jedi-like. As a young initiate and a Padawan, he was super into machinery, starships, and he had dreams of becoming a pilot even. He was super talented with understanding, perceiving, and repairing machinery and technology, and he carried that with him, and it served him well after he disliked flying. But in his youth, this skill and this talent made him very cocky and headstrong. But under the tutelage of Master Yoda and Qui-Gon Jinn, he became a lot more reserved and humble.
Interesting. That's a good one. I had another. My second one was actually another in lore one too. Actually, believe it or not, there is a comic in Legends, it's the Republic comic where Obi-Wan survives in Asajj Ventress's dark side torture prison for 6 months. He's killing off maggots that are supposed to eat him from the inside with the Force, resisting the dark side in a dark side torture prison. And then after 6 months, he freed himself and another clone trooper, dueled Ventress, basically won and escaped.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Legends, but that's still pretty awesome.
It's really impressive actually. I remember when I saw that, I'm like, oh yeah, this guy's a boss. Go with your number 3.
All right, number 3. This is a little more common, but I still think it's very interesting. Obi-Wan Kenobi was never meant to be Anakin's master. Qui-Gon Jinn's dying wish was for Obi-Wan to train Anakin, so he felt that he could not refuse this. The Jedi Council ended up reversing its decision in which they previously stated that they would not train Anakin because they were moved by Qui-Gon Jinn's dying plea.
Good one. Very, very good one. Now, my third one was actually going to be about Stewjon itself, so I'm just going to figure out another one. Let me think about this. I'm going to go with Obi-Wan, of course, has many representations in Star Wars video games. He has 2 characters in Galaxy of Heroes. He was Luke's helper in Star Wars Force Arena. He had many cards in Star Wars Force Collection, and he had his own hero character in Star Wars Battlefront 2. So Obi-Wan's a prolific figure in Star Wars video games. Go with your number 4.
Number 4. After beating Darth Maul, the Sith Lord, and taking Anakin under his tutelage, Obi-Wan was considered by the Jedi Council to have avenged his master Qui-Gon Jinn. This prompted the Jedi to promote him to Jedi Knight without him taking the Jedi Trials, which, although it had happened previously, it was unheard of in peacetime. So that he was unique in that way.
Very good one. Okay, this one might be a little bit more of a well-known one, but I'm still gonna do it. In the George Lucas produced movie Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Indiana Jones goes into a nightclub called Club Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan. That's awesome.
So, yeah.
All right. Should I do my number 5 now?
Yep.
All right. What do I consider to be one of the greatest fun facts, I guess? Maybe. Okay. It's a very interesting fun fact. By the end of the Clone Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi's skill with Soresu, Form 3, and his mastery of that had become such that Mace Windu, who was one of the great duelists in Jedi history, considered him not just to have achieved mastery of the form, but he had become the master of it, according to Windu. And then this was proven because when he dueled Grievous in Episode 3, Obi-Wan Kenobi comfortably parried up to 18 Grievous strikes per second. Someone analyzed that, and they found that at the peak, he was parrying 18 strikes per second. He still ended up cutting off 2 of Grievous' arms and eventually bested the metalloid monstrosity. He was also one of the only people to fight Darth Vader and hold his own. And also, I think, along with Luke Skywalker, to my knowledge, the only person to best Darth Vader in a one-on-one. So I think that says a lot about his
If we're talking canon,
prowess.
Yes. Believe it or not,
talking
in Legends,
canon, yes.
If we're talking Legends, there is actually one more person, technically.
Oh, really? Who?
Galen Merrick.
Galen Merrick, yes.
Yeah.
Star Killer.
Trust me, I've been playing, actually, right now, I've been playing The Force Unleashed, so, really good game, still hate Star Killer, but, let's see, yeah, okay, I guess I'm just gonna go with, my 5th one, which I'm excited to talk about. There is a comic, called Star Wars Visionaries, which is stories created by the art directors of Revenge of the Sith, I believe. And they got to create their own stories. They're not even legends. A story called Old Wounds. Have you ever heard of Old Wounds?
I have heard of that. I have heard of that. That does sound familiar.
Old Wounds is a comic where it is revealed. This is pre the Clone Wars, by the way. This is before the Clone Wars. This is before the Clone Wars even got created.
Wow. Okay.
So what happens is that Maul is revealed to have survived his being cut in half before the Clone Wars again. And he finds Obi-Wan on Tatooine where he's hiding because he's protecting Luke. This is a couple years after Revenge of the Sith.
Yes.
He takes Luke, Owen, and Beru hostage until he's until Obi-Wan seeks him out. And Maul says, "Oh yeah, Obi-Wan, I've been tracking you for years. I was a couple days late to Kamino. I was a couple days late to Geonosis. I was a couple days late to Mustafar. I was a couple days late to Polis Massa, where Luke and Leia were born.
Couple days late to everything.
Yeah, he was just a couple days late.
Unlucky.
Obi-Wan and Maul then duel, much like the duel in Twin Suns, which is the episode of Rebels, where the same thing happens, except for the duel is much longer, but and it's much earlier in the timeline. This is only a couple years after Revenge of the Sith. Obi-Wan, of course, defeats Maul, but he can't decide whether to kill Maul or not before he can make the choice. Owen Large shoots Maul with a blaster.
Fair enough, he is a Sith Lord. And
Obi-Wan says he's going to take the corpse, and guess what he's going to do? He's going to burn it in the Dune Sea, which is exactly what he does in canon. After Twin Suns. That is an actual comic that actually happened. It basically predicted the Clone Wars and Rebels. And it's Legends.
That's pretty crazy.
It's really interesting. So yeah, that's my number one. That's my number 5 fact, which is Old Wounds and how it affected the character of Obi-Wan and Maul. Okay.
So next up we have best portrayal. Right?
So Obi-Wan, of course, has been portrayed by a lot of actors over the years, whether in film or TV or in video games. I'm just going to pull up a quick list of there aren't a lot of people, but who do you think? I think I know who you're going to pick, but go ahead. Who you're going to pick at best portrayal?
First off, okay, this is going to sound like a cop-out, but I had a very hard time choosing. And part of me just wants to say they're all great, and I do think that's true. They're all amazing.
Great. They're all awesome.
Ewan McGregor he's stoic, but he brings some emotional depth to the trilogy that he was in, which I think was much needed. James Arnold Taylor is
just a legend, honestly.
James Arnold Taylor is hilarious. He really captures the Ewan McGregor and the Alec Guinness and kind of puts it together and adds his own little twist on it. He brings some humor and some levity. And Alec Guinness is just a perfect, wise, benevolent manner. But for greatest role, maybe not greatest, but most underrated, I'm going to have to go with Alec Guinness. He only had one movie, really, and he was almost a bit of a side character in that movie. He wasn't there for part of it in A New Hope. He only had like half a movie to make people love him, and he still made Obi-Wan a legendary character even before the prequels. So I gotta go with Alec Guinness, the OG.
I was 99% sure you were gonna pick Alec Guinness.
You know me too well.
I was gonna be really shocked if you picked anyone else, and I think you're gonna know me well enough to know who I'm gonna pick. The prequels were just a trilogy of bad acting and bad writing. But you know who shines out, who's the beacon of hope? Ewan McGregor. And that's who I'm picking for the best portrayal of Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ewan McGregor.
Nice. Ewan McGregor.
Ewan McGregor, just for all of the one-liners in especially Revenge of the Sith, gotta go with hello there. We use that as the intro.
So uncivilized. There's so many of them.
You seem to be flying half a ship.
There's so many.
Do you have a plan B? There's so many. Let's see. Go ahead with the best piece of media.
Best piece of media. This was a really hard one because he's
it was hard for me too.
Side character, a bit of a peripheral in a lot of things. But when it comes down to it, honestly, the Clone Wars.
The Clone Wars.
He just gets a lot of screen time.
Any specific episode. I chose a specific episode of something. Any specific episode of the Clone Wars. Yes.
Oh, no, I didn't have a specific episode in mind. I just think it really kind of fleshes out his character. It shows a lot about his relationship to Ahsoka, his relationship to Anakin especially, and I think that it adds a lot of depth to his character.
Interesting. So mine, I couldn't decide. I had two, so I'm just going to share both of them. Number one would be Revenge of the Sith. Obi-Wan's relationship with Anakin and his relationship with Yoda, even a little bit of his relationship with Qui-Gon is explored. And that's just so special, and Ewan McGregor does a great job, and it shows who Anakin could have been. It shows who Anakin chose not to be. And I actually had another episode, I had a specific episode in mind, a TV episode, but it's not from the Clone Wars. And you know me, Jacob, you know how much I love the episode, but I'm going with the other one that's tied is Twin Sons.
Twin Sons, that is a good episode.
It's my favorite episode of Rebels, and
yeah.
Stephen Stanton does a really great job voicing who...
Oh my gosh,
impossible.
I totally forgot that Stephen Stanton voiced him in Rebels. That's crazy.
Yeah.
He did a great job.
He did a great job with what he was given. He had to basically do Alec Guinness 2 years before Alec Guinness. And he did a great job.
Those are some hard shoes to fill, I have to say.
No kidding. Next, we're on to the best allies of Obi-Wan Kenobi. And we're doing top 3, so go ahead with number 3.
Number 3. Ooh, I didn't put mine in order, but
okay.
I'm going to have to say... Ooh, I don't know. Which one was my number? I would say Ahsoka, because what's interesting about Ahsoka is it kind of echoes where how he met Anakin and how Anakin then meets him in Ahsoka, where everyone thinks that Ahsoka is going to get trained by him, and then he ends up being like, no, Anakin, you must train her. I think that's a cool callback, and I appreciated that a lot. Also, even though they're not directly Master and Apprentice, it's just really great to see them, and I think they're kind of a cool duo.
Ahsoka has learned almost as much from Obi-Wan as she's learned from Anakin.
That is totally true. That is completely true. Yes.
Okay. Who's
your number 1?
What? My number 3.
Number 3. Sorry.
Number 3.
Yeah.
Commander Cody. I know the whole Order 66 thing, but the Clone Wars, even a little bit of Revenge of the Sith, but the Clone Wars. You rarely see Obi-Wan in the Clone Wars without Cody at his side. And
True.
Honestly, I feel like Cody and Rex are kind of both clone reflections of Obi-Wan and Anakin. And Cody especially seems like he's, Obi-Wan's a very by the book, but he sees the value in doing things not by the book, where a lot of other Jedi don't inherently. And same thing with Cody. Cody sees that wants to do things by the book, but he's more willing to follow Rex, to do things that are not beyond the book. So that's why I picked Cody. Number 2. I'm gonna go with Anakin. That might be a cop-out because Skywalker.
It's prejudice, but Anakin is super important. Keep in mind these weren't in any particular order, so.
Oh, mine are in order, but okay.
Okay. Or mine aren't, I meant. So okay. I just think that his relationship with Anakin is super important because it kind of defines a lot of his life, like how he's training Anakin, So yeah, I just think he has a really cool relationship with Anakin before it all gets messed up,
Yeah. Number 2 for me. Master Yoda. Master Yoda is number 2 for me because his and Obi-Wan's relationship, especially in the original trilogy, is a very special relationship where they realize that they're 2 of the last Jedi, and they're basically the 2 last Jedi who can actually do anything before Luke and they both decide to keep in contact with each other remotely, I guess. Maybe we should all follow their example more these days. But yeah, I think Yoda and Obi-Wan's relationship is a very special one because you see that that Yoda trusts Obi-Wan when Obi-Wan sticks up for Luke in Empire Strikes Back. And yeah, I'm going with Master Yoda. Number 1 for you.
Number 1 for me, Qui-Gon Jinn.
Me too. Me too. Number Qui-Gon.
Super important. What I like about this relationship, it shows how Qui-Gon Jinn obviously had a huge impact on him. And even though like they had a very positive relationship, it's funny how Qui-Gon's impact ended up being like more what Obi-Wan was not like, instead of like being like an Anakin and Ahsoka relationship, where they ended up like kind of like, oh, you take after your master. It's like, oh, you're different from your master, you know?
Yeah, I'm going with Qui-Gon too. Qui-Gon was my number 1. For the same reasons. It's like their Padawan master dynamic. As we're watching, of course, we're watching the Phantom Menace right now. I love seeing that dynamic between them. It's really special.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, best enemies. Number 3, go ahead.
Best enemies. I have to go with Maul. Again, these weren't in order because Maul kind of is his greatest enemy. But, I mean, Maul killed his master. He took off Maul's legs. They've got beef. Maul comes back and tries to kill him throughout the Clone Wars. Even in Rebels, it's kind of like a decades... It's basically their rivalry. Not even rivalry, just like it lasts decades.
Just out of curiosity, who are your other
compelling.
2? I just want to see who your other 2 is, because they
My
might
other
be the
2
same
are
as mine.
Anakin Skywalker, strangely enough, and Hondo Ohnaka.
Really? Okay, so I had 2 of your 3. I had Vader at number 2. Vader, Anakin, basically the same thing. And I had Maul at number 1. But Hondo Ohnaka, really?
Yeah, Hondo Ohnaka, yeah, definitely.
Interesting.
I think they had a really interesting kind of a love-hate relationship.
I want to see if you can figure out who my number 3 would be, if it's not Hondo.
Palpatine?
No. My number 3, General Grievous.
Oh, General Grievous. I forgot about Grievous. Yeah. They were such rivals.
They were such rivals, especially if you see the stuff with Grievous in Legends and how Grievous watched the Battle of Geonosis from afar, and he saw Obi-Wan. He's like, and he looked, and he kept watching Obi-Wan because something about Obi-Wan was so kind of mesmerizing to him, and and Grievous was like, that guy's trouble. That guy is trouble.
That guy's trouble. I thought he wasn't watching from afar. I thought he was like prowling around the catacombs.
Yeah, I mean, like, afar.
I thought they was in like some clones like took back like there were rumors of this like crazy lightsaber wielding like.
He didn't actually have lightsabers at that point. He didn't have lightsabers at that point because he hadn't killed any Jedi point.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I don't think it's very surprising that both of us picked Maul and Vader, because Vader really had an impact on Obi-Wan. His whole life was basically torn down in front of him. And for Maul, of course, Maul took everything from him. His master, the love of his life.
Yeah.
His sanity.
Maul really does like...
His sanity, because he keeps coming back all these times.
Yeah, definitely. It's,
Yeah. Okay. And finally, we're going to do a very quick best 5 moments.
Best 5 moments.
Yeah. You did, or did we do 3? Did you do 5 or did you do 3?
I did 5.
Okay, yeah.
All right.
Number 5 for you, Jacob.
Okay, my number 5 moment is when Obi-Wan frightens Dooku with his mastery of Soresu. I can't remember which novelization it's in. I think but there's a novelization.
Maybe. I think it might be Revenge of the Sith. I think I know what you're talking about.
It gets revealed that like Kenobi he is freaked out by his, or not, Dooku is freaked out by Kenobi's mastery of Form 3. And I would theorycraft, if we're going on a limb here, that the reason that Kenobi gets knocked out so early is actually because that Dooku is afraid that Kenobi will beat him and somehow signals to Palpatine to subtly use the Force to incapacitate him to make sure that Anakin is the main threat in the fight.
I'm 99% sure in Legends in the Revenge of the Sith book, it was actually revealed that Palpatine's like, so Obi-Wan and to Dooku before the fight, like 5 minutes before the fight, Palpatine's like to Dooku, okay, so yeah, so Anakin and Obi-Wan are gonna rush in, but you gotta take out Obi-Wan as quickly as you can, because I need Anakin alone, and, you know, Obi-Wan's dangerous, too. But yeah, solid choice. My number 5, I'm going to go with the defeat of Darth Maul on the planet of Naboo.
Ooh, good one.
Maul was a force to be reckoned with at that time. He was cool, calm, collected, and deadly, as we're already seeing in our watch-through of the Phantom Menace. And he had just killed Qui-Gon Jinn. And so, Kenobi's perseverance, even when Maul had the high ground, he persevered and he ended up splitting Maul in half in a move that should have killed him. In a move that should have killed him.
Shows how Maul is sustained by his rage.
You're never going to forgive whoever made the decision of bringing Maul back.
Who are you? You're not?
No, I'm not. I'm never going to.
Okay.
I can't stand Reborn Maul. Okay, number 4 for you.
Number 4 for me. These aren't in any particular order, aside from the top one, because I didn't realize that's part of it. When he beats Grievous.
The defeat of Grievous on the planet of Utapau.
Yeah, the defeat of Grievous, I think this is amazing. We kind of touched on it already, but I think it bears going back to just because of how badass it is. He's straight up he stays cool, calm, and collected. 18 strikes a minute from a 4-1 lightsaber advantage. Doesn't matter. Obi-Wan's having none of it. He's straight up, he just shuts him down. He even kills him with a blaster, which is kind of funny and ironic and symbolic. And we get the amazing line, so uncivilized. So, from my perspective, it's a win-win-win.
Yep.
And it's a really cool moment because he finally kind of bests his perennial rival. Okay.
I'm doing my number 4 right now, which is Obi-Wan survived the droid onslaught on the planet of Geonosis. 212 Jedi came to Geonosis. About a couple dozen of them died. And Obi-Wan, not full power Obi-Wan, this is like half power Obi-Wan, survived. Like, he wasn't at his peak yet. He still survived.
Yeah.
When, Council Masters didn't. Number 3 for you.
Yeah.
Number 3 for you.
Number 3. Sorry, there's a lot of background noise right now.
We're good.
He helps Ezra and beats Maul in the desert. I think that's a really important moment because it brings closure. It brings closure to this, not the episode itself, just that moment. It brings closure to this decades-long kind of deadly feud and rivalry that they've had, which so many people have, died in the crossfire. Literally
Satine.
Hundreds or thousands of people.
Satine.
Yeah.
Everyone on Mandalore.
Yeah, can I...
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, hundreds and thousands of also unnamed people. All because of Maul's thirst for revenge. So, it's interesting to see some closure. Interesting to see that in the last moments, did they end up in kind of a not so, angry moment, and Maul kind of dies, not necessarily going to the light side, but he dies less evilly, and I think that's an interesting choice. Because I think it shows the influence of Obi-Wan, how he's a good light side individual, maybe.
Number 3 for me, I'm not going to go over it too much because Jacob already did in such great detail. Number 3 for me is the defeat of Grievous on Utapau. Number 2 for you, Jacob.
Number 2 for me. Obi-Wan. No, that was my number 1 by mistake. My number 2 moment is when he takes Luke under his wing in episode 4. This isn't necessarily one moment, it's kind of a collection of moments. And I just really like these moments because it really shows Obi-Wan in a different light from the way he's portrayed for most of the content that he's in the prequels. We see him as kind of this wise old man, but also it kind of makes us wonder, like, what happened to incite, like, such a fall from grace that, like, this amazing Jedi has kind of become like kind of a sad hermit.
A shadow of his former self.
Yeah, a shadow of his former self. So I think it's an interesting, it's really interesting. It's also really cool to see, like wonder at the sadness with which he replays, like, Anakin. He was the best star pilot in the galaxy. He was a cunning warrior. And he was a good friend. I think the line was good, but we can check back on that later.
No, you got it, yeah. I think almost perfectly.
Okay. I think that has got to be one of my most favorite moments. He just, like, is such a cool, mysterious, yet benevolent figure. And I really like that about him.
Yeah, I agree. Number 2 for me, the training of Anakin Skywalker. Well, Anakin became a great Jedi for a while.
Yep.
Number 1 for you.
Number 1 for me. Obi-Wan sacrifices himself to Darth Vader to let Luke Skywalker, Leia, Han, and the rest of the rebels escape.
I don't believe it. That is my number 1 as well.
I just think that's a really sad moment, but it really shows, like, Obi-Wan's maturity, and it kind of, I think it's just like a really good conclusion to his arc and his time in the material world. He knows he's gonna be, I guess I don't know if he knows, but, like, he's gonna be around, like, to help guide people even after he dies. And it's just a really noble thing. And of course, he has the amazing line, "If you strike me down, Darth, I'll become more powerful than you can possibly imagine." That's a freaking badass line. And
yeah, I agree. To add on to that, what I love about Obi-Wan's sacrifice is he becomes a Force ghost in the process. And there are not a lot of people who we know can become Force ghosts. Let's count on they can be counted on one hand. It's Obi-Wan, Anakin, Yoda, and Luke. And Leia.
Isn't it Qui-Gon
and
who,
Leia.
Like, discovers the secret or something? Or, like,
and
he doesn't discover it, but he learns
Qui-Gon.
the secret.
Okay, maybe on 2 hands, but still 6 people. Obi-Wan, Anakin, Yoda, Luke, Leia, and Qui-Gon.
Yep.
Obi-Wan's one of them. And really, for me, becoming a Force ghost is the epitome of Jedi selflessness. Because
how so?
Most of the time, Jedi become Force ghosts because they die, but they still are so selfless as to help the person under their wing. For Obi-Wan and Yoda, and eventually Anakin, it's Luke. For Luke and Leia, it's Rey. For Qui-Gon, it's, I guess, Obi-Wan and Luke. But you are giving up your physical life so that you may help your allies in another, which I think is just such a noble thing to do.
I agree.
And yeah, I definitely think, that is one of Obi-Wan Kenobi's best moments. And I think that's it for this episode. This was a fun one. We should do this with other characters.
It was. This was a real treat.
First of all, I just want to say again, happy birthday to Jacob, because
thank you so much, Eli.
On his birthday. Yeah. And of course, we're gonna have to do our mandatory plugs. Please subscribe to us on and follow us on Anchor and Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Breaker and healthcare.gov, of course.
All that good stuff.
All that good stuff. Make sure to follow us on Twitter. We are at In a Galaxy Cast. And make sure to, this is a new one actually, subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We have a YouTube channel now.
We have a YouTube channel. Subscribe to the notification bell. It's where we're posting Star Wars Beyond the Galaxy. By the time this comes out, I will have posted my second episode. It will have been out since that Monday. And it's me playing Star Wars Battlefront 2015 and answering some fun questions. Because yeah, it's gonna be fun. Next week we are going to be returning to our regular schedule, and I believe that is the 120 to 140 minute mark. No, actually, no. Is it 100?
Right.
I think it's actually no. I think it's 100 to 120. I don't think we've watched 120 yet. No, yeah, it's 100 to 120 of Phantom Menace. So that will be next week. In the meantime, may the Force be with you always.
May the Force be with you.